I'd like to send a big early morning shout out to all of our brothers and sisters out there in social media land. This is indeed a great day to be alive. This is a day that the Most High Heavenly Father made. We should rejoice and be glad in it. We figure we'll come on here and do this little short video before we get our day started. We got quite some busy weeks coming up here in Kansas City, Missouri. I just want to share a couple of nuggets of wisdom with some of the brothers and sisters concerning our personal accountability and self-awareness. And contrary to what anybody may think, most of the times when we look at the world changing, we look at the world changing from the standpoint as though something miraculous just gonna come and happen and just change and restructure everything, and that is not likely to happen. But every time one person changes their mind about something, every time one person makes up their mind that they're gonna do what's right, strategically and on purpose, the world has changed already. And so our aim is to change the world one person at a time. That's the only way that it's going to be done. So on today, many of you know how here in Kansas City, Missouri, we have been trying to get a little bit more aware of the city and state, local government, and things of that nature. And so it's a learning process for me. So I'm not telling nobody what they should do or what they shouldn't do. But I do mean to try to make some brothers and sisters understand why it's so important that we're going to have to start assuming the responsibility for our own individual life as it relates to the choices that we make. So when we start looking at righteousness or doing what's right, people have a habit of getting that confused with some type of religion. But we don't operate in religion over here. We operate in righteousness. So with that being said, I want to show you what I mean is that most of the cases when brothers start reading holy books, whether it be the Bible, whether it be the Quran, we have a mindset that we now have to do the same things that the people who wrote the book done. And I want to tell you that don't work, because that's not what the written words were for. The written words are simply instruction or something to give us a comparable, something to compare the decision-making process and the outcomes with. And so that's from the standpoint. But we want to show you why it's going to be important in this hour that every man, every woman assume the personal responsibility and accountability for their own self. So if you know that, that holy instruction tells us if we do certain things, we can avoid certain pitfalls. Well, it's common knowledge that if you adhere or can make those instructions applicable to your life, then we can get the same results. That's why when you go to the grocery store and you buy things like box food or macaroni and cheese or Betty Crocker cake, these things always come with instructions on the box. You need 1 cup of milk, you need 2 eggs, you need a half a cup of flour, you need a teaspoon of margarine. Now, if we apply those instructions, then we can get the same results. So if you're going to bake a cake, if you'll follow the instructions on the box, you can get the same result that the box say that you're going to get. And so as it is with life, when we apply those instructions to our life, we can get the same results in our life as it relates to blessings and rewards. To my parents and those that are, my children are grown now, but to our parents, let me tell you, I watched this lady yesterday. I watched a lady yesterday waiting on the bus, hollering and screaming at her kid, trying to get him to come on because the bus was coming. And I had my truck and trailer parked over there. And I kept hearing her hollering at the kid, telling the kid to come on. But then, the child probably was about maybe 4 years old. But the child was running from the mother. And when I finally seen him, he had ran around my trailer, which I had parked on the sidewalk, and was about to run in the street. And it was then that we lifted up our voice and said, "Hey, stop!" And so the little kid, and I said, "Man, that's amazing. Here you got a 4-year-old child. He won't listen to his mother. He won't, And she had to chase, and she can't run, but he's running from her. He won't stop for nothing. If she go this way, he go the other way. If she go, man, that's the condition that our people are in. And I like to believe that one of the reasons why people are in that condition is because we don't want to hear righteous instruction. Anytime you try to give somebody righteous instruction, their excuse is that they try to confuse that with some type of religion or some type of preaching or something of that nature. But let me tell you something. Let's take the music, for instance. If you, from the time you get up every morning, listening to fuck a nigga, fuck a bitch, bitches ain't shit, we don't love them hoes, we don't do this, kill a nigga that, drive by this, drive. If you wake up every morning and you listen to those words all day long, then they're going to shape the mentality. And I understand, because one of the things that people don't want to identify with is the damage that the music, which really ain't music nowadays, have on the minds of people. And they say, "Oh, well, it's just entertainment. It's just entertainment." Well, do you know what the word entertainment means? Is to be detained so that something can enter into you. So when you have brothers and sisters that do this, and not only do they do it, but their children are exposed to whatever the parent is doing. And so even though it may not have a full effect on the parent, because the parent has a little bit more understanding, you can listen to the gangster rap or the ratchet music or whatnot. But, the old folks, you say the proof is in the pudding. When you look at the world that we are living in, you see, you have to ask yourself, how did something as rot gut as brothers walking around in skinny jeans with their booties hanging out with Fruit of the Loom drawers on, how can something like that sweep across a whole nation in every city, in every state? When you look at our sisters' lack of self-respect from the way that they dress or the way that they carry themselves, or even the eyelashes or the claws, you have to say, how can these things sweep across a whole community, a whole country, in every city, in every state? You can see simultaneously all the people doing the same thing. Well, there is a spirit in the air that travels through music and through media. And when we allow ourselves to be exposed to these things throughout the course of a day, every day, day in, day out, every day, day in, day out, it begins to shape the mentality and shape the thought process of the people that are being exposed to it. They have literally allowed themselves to be detained so that a negative spirit can enter into them, because you don't understand that words are seeds. And so when you do approach somebody with seeds that will produce goodness, they'll automatically try to use the excuse of being religious, not to adhere to that particular instruction. Now, as we said before, contrary to what anybody may think or how anybody may feel, the proof is in the pudding. Look in the world that you're living in, and then you can see it. And so when you look at the murder rate and things of that nature, what is it that causes a young man, the first thing that they want to do is possess firearms with no strategic use for them other than to harm one another? Where does the mindset come from? Well, mindset comes from what we're listening to. When we grew up, we were surrounded by love music and groups like the Temptations and the Dramatics and all of these different groups that were singing love music. And we noticed that back then is that it was a shameful thing for a man to divorce a woman or for a woman to be divorced. It was a shameful thing for a woman to end up pregnant before she was married or to end up pregnant in her mother and her father's house. Those things were shameful. But now it seems to be, it's just common. It's just a natural thing. And so we have to stop and we have to take a look at where is this instruction coming from that causes me to be finding contentment with things that are corrupt or things that are against righteousness. Okay, we can just take God out the picture for the sake of brothers and sisters that don't believe in nothing type of spirituality. Let's just look at life for what it is. So, so those are some of the things that we want to look at. When we look at our churches and we look at our pastors, you have to say to yourself, how can you have 50 churches, a church on every other block, for a 2-3 mile stretch within the framework of a community, and yet the community is constantly being destroyed and constantly on a decline? When we come up, we understood that wherever God's presence was, his power would be there also. That means that if you had God's instruction and you was making that applicable, then that would be coupled by a demonstration before your brothers and sisters that will cause the people that was around you to be made better. So I got a particular scripture that I want to pull out. And so now it's like everything gets a bad name. So God gets a bad name because of men's failure to adhere to his instruction. And how can it be? It's been made to be a shameful thing to try and make righteous decisions, and then you have people that have been consumed with this negative energy that even when you try to apply hope to some people's mindset, you literally almost have to fight with them. You almost have to fight. When you get to the point to where you feel like, man, ain't nothing gonna get no better. Man, ain't nothing gonna change. Man, these people ain't gonna do nothing. Man, it ain't never gonna do nothing. Man, it don't make no sense. When you get to that point, you know there's something terribly wrong with the way that we think. Because anything can change. If you don't like the building, then you change the living. Because if you change the living, then the whole building has the potential to change. So I want to show you why it's going to be important for us to be able to accept the personal accountability for our individual selves. Because it don't make no difference what nobody else do. But it is going to make a difference what you do as an individual. And as we stated before, we don't want people to be confused that the difference between religion and righteousness is religion is a precept that's handed down from one generation to the next. And that precept is mainly dealing with traditional things or methodologies. ways of doing things. Like so if you say, well, deal with religion. Religion say, well, I get up every morning, I'll go to church on Sunday. Well, going to church on Sunday, it don't have no bearing to be able to change the life or to change your decision-making process, because you can do something religiously day in and day out and still remain the same when it comes to your conduct or your decision-making process. So you can go to church religiously, but you can still be exposing yourself to day in and day out negativity. And so that's going to be the mindset. So even if you did do these things religiously, you would still bring a mindset that was not good. And that's why you have so much infighting in these organizations. And to my brothers in the Israelite community, you think that you latching on to a camp or becoming a part of somebody's Sabbath day teaching, you think that that's going to morph your life into righteousness, where you're sadly mistaken. You think if you put fringes on the borders of your garments, or even if you start trying to keep feast days, you think that that's going to morph your life into righteousness. Well, it's not. It's only going to give you an outward appearance of righteousness. Then you'll line straight up with what the scriptures say. These people have a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, the power that comes from making these instructions applicable to your life. That's the only way that things are going to change, period. So let me show you why we have to accept the personal accountability for ourselves. This is going to come out of the book of Micah, the 3rd chapter and the 11th verse. And just like I said, when we pull up the Bible, the first thing people think about is religion. That's why many brothers and sisters are turned off from my channel, because they think it's something religious, but it's nothing religious. It has something to do with being able to make applicable a righteous instruction that will cause our lives to be better, to cause our decision-making process to be much better. Now, this particular passage is dealing with things that are spoken. And it don't make no difference whether the things that are being spoken on the news, whether they're being spoken in the rap music, whether they're being spoken on the video, whether they're being spoken in church, whether they're being spoken in Israelite heritage, whether they've been spoken in Islam. It's still pertaining to the things that's being spoken into the ears of people. And we're going to show you why it's going to be important for you to be able to sit down and have some quiet time, and then begin to look at your own life and ask yourself, who am I not? That we might start seeing ourselves for who God desires for us to be. Therefore, the heads judge for a reward, and the priests thereof teach for hire, and the prophets thereof divine for money. Yet will they lean upon the Lord and say, is not the Lord among us? No evil can come upon us. Now, we're going to read a more simplified version for our brothers and sisters. Don't have to try to figure out what these things are meaning. We're going to look at a World English Bible translation. And this is what it says. Her leaders judge for bribes. That means that your court systems and all that, you have to hire lawyers to go to court, and the lawyers go pay the judges, and then the judges lean toward whatever direction or whoever's paying the most money. This is the hour that we're in. And what we're trying to show people is the reason why you cannot leave your livelihood or your life to the instruction of men that are corrupted. He said her leaders judge for bribes, and her priests, they teach for a price. So when you start dealing with priests, you start dealing with the heads over the religious institution, whether they be the church, whether they be Israelite heritage, or whether they be over Islam. When they're classified as priests when they come dealing with holy books. And when the Bible speaks of these things, it's not cherry picking. It's speaking of them as a blanket. And so when the scripture tell men that you shouldn't call yourself pastor, apostle, bishop, Kohen, Moray, that you shouldn't address yourself by any titles. He's making it simple. Why not? He said, because there's only one teacher, there's only one righteous instructor, even I. He said, there's only one. And when we move ourselves into these positions, we become corrupted men. So he says that her leaders judge for bribes and her priests, they teach for a price. You'll never see a pastor teaching or preaching without getting paid. He expects a paycheck. You don't see men going out here doing these things for free. But the scriptures say, freely as you have received, you should freely go out there and give. He said her prophets, it says, her leaders judge for bribes, her priests teach for a price, and her prophets of it tell fortunes for money. Yet they will lean on the Most High and say, isn't God in the midst of us? No disaster will come upon us. Well, if that be the case, how can you have all of these things and our world be in the condition that it is in? How can you have us as a people a part of all of these things, yet the lives of our people are getting no better? How can you have us a part of all of these things when our marriages can't stay together, when our children are killing each other, when our men have a disdain for the women and our women choose to be single over married? How can you say that surely God is with us? No disaster shall come to us when the disaster have already come. It have already come and beat the family structure down to about 15%. It have already come through the vehicle of fornication and immorality. It have already come through the vehicle of drug abuse and alcoholism. It have already come through the spirit of murder and hatred toward one another. Yet how can people have a mindset still that God is with us? How can the Christian go out there and say, I'm blessed and I'm highly favored, when you look at the condition of your neighborhood and see the people on your block and the condition that everybody is in? How could you say that? How could the Muslim say, Allah Akbar, God is great, Allah the Beneficent, when you look around and you look at the condition of your community and see the young men killing themselves, and even half of the brothers that are part of these associations still don't have wives, still have not assumed the responsibility for the children that have been fathered in earlier time? How can you say that? How can the Israelite declare that Yahshua is king and behold all Israel, the Lord thy God is one, when they still can't keep a family together, when they still have not assumed the responsibility for the fathered children, when they don't assume no responsibility at all for the economic condition of the community? This is the condition of those that are out in front. They don't have lost the ability to see things for what they really are. That's where we at. That's where we at. And if you sit around and you just listen to these people, and this is the importance of we need to start paying more attention to what people do rather than what people say. This is the condition of leadership. So anytime that you get anybody that has a desire to try and lead the way in righteousness, then you can best believe that the world going to do everything it can to trifle on those people. He's going to do everything that he can. Because these videos right here, I may get 50 views, I may get 35 views of the people that are familiar with my page. But if I brought 2 or 3 naked women over here and I was disrespecting everybody, and I was waving guns and I was planting negative energy and negative seeds in the minds of people, then the whole world would be the flock to this channel. I would probably have 1 million views, because we can look on the social media platform and we can see that every time there is negative energy, we as a people seem to flock to it. And unless we assume some personal accountability, that means that one man and one woman understand that one day God gonna judge you for the things that you were doing. And this is across the board. This is across the board. This is to anybody that has influence, anybody that's holding a microphone, anybody that's standing in a pulpit, anybody that's teaching anybody. You're gonna be accountable for every last thing that you have ever taught anybody. And the word says that God gonna bring every man and every woman into judgment for every idle word spoken. And you might say, well, I wasn't the one. I didn't make the rap music. But if you was the one that was playing the music that was causing the children to be destroyed by having a mindset that was negative and against God, then you're the one that's going to bear the brunt of the accountability, because you're the one that's classified as the priest or the prophet or the leader. And see, we don't want to accept that. We don't want to accept those responsibilities. If you're a DJ in a DJ booth and your genre is gangster music that's causing these brothers to feel all right with toting guns and hurting people. If you one that's in the DJ booth and your genre is ratchet music that's causing the sisters to not have no shame about what they doing in this world, that's making them think that it's all right to prostitute themselves, it's all right to walk around looking like whores. And if that's the mindset that you are putting in sisters, that when righteous truth shows up, then the sisters automatically instantly get mad. Well, what are you getting mad at me for? If it looked like a duck and it walked like a duck and it quacked like a duck, surely it has to be a duck. So if you look like a hoe, if you dress like a hoe, if you're walking around here like a whore, then surely you got to be a whore. And you cannot come to a righteous, upstanding brother who really genuinely have love for you, and when he come to deal with you on a certain thing, you cannot get mad at him because he's out of place. If you a brother and you walking around here, you toting guns, you looking to harm somebody, you looking to shoot somebody, you don't care about nobody, and then a brother comes up to try to give you some righteous instruction and you reject that, you can't look at that like it's something wrong with the brother. It's something terribly wrong with you in the way that you think, because God didn't make none of us to conduct ourselves in this world in that manner. He didn't. So when we start talking about personal accountability, everybody gonna have to stand before the righteous judge of the world, and they're gonna have to give an account. And it don't make no difference. You say, well, I don't believe in all that church stuff. Well, this ain't got nothing to do with no church stuff. Well, I don't believe in that Israelite. Well, this ain't got nothing to do with no Israelite stuff, and ain't got nothing to do with no Islamic stuff. When you open up your eyes, now see, it'd be different. It's a difference to go to a funeral when somebody dies. It's a difference to go and pay your respect and mourn for somebody when somebody dies. There's a major difference between doing this every now and then, between doing this with your life. When you have to go in and day out, week in and week out, and stand over dead bodies that have died before their time, and you have to try to encourage mourning parents who already feel guilty of falling down on their responsibility, because when God get ready to judge parents, He's going to judge parents by taking their children away from them. And when those children get taken away from that parent, now the spirit of conviction comes to show that parent, see, I was telling you to get a grip on them right here. I was telling you don't do this around them. I was telling you don't do that around them. I was telling you to, and now the parent has to live with the guilt of all of the things that they should have done, that they didn't do, that if they ever had the opportunity to do again, they would. They end up with the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Nothing but sad memories of a lost opportunity to do things the right way. And the old folks used to say that an ounce of prevention is far greater than a pound of cure. So you might not like the medication that you have to take, but if the medicine is going to make you better, then you got to go on and eat it. Grandma and them used to say, I know the beets don't taste good to you. I know you don't like green beans and Brussels sprouts, but baby, these are good for you. The vegetables are good for you. They're going to strengthen your life in some areas and cause you to grow up big and strong. No kid liked those things. So it's the same way with righteous instruction. You might not like it, It might not feel good to you right then, because everything that feels good to you is not good for you. You might not like it, but you have to be able to digest it. And you have to be able to look face to face at the very thing that's coming as a destructive force. And there are many things that we fall in love with that are coming to kill us. And none of us will ever develop the ability to kill the enemies that's coming to kill us, that we are falling in love with, until we see them for the enemies that they are. And I know the music got a pounding beat, and I know the music sound good, and I know all that. But when you listen to the words, and it's talking about me doing harm to my brother that God said I'm supposed to be loving, when it's talking about me not loving the woman that he made for me, when it's talking about me not being responsible and me living my life any kind of way, I know it got a nice beat, it got a nice ring to it, but words are seeds, and we have to be careful what we allow to be planted in our mind. And if you're a parent and you're allowing these things to be taught to your children, when it's time for God to judge you, you'll weep and howl, but you only get one chance, only get one opportunity to be a parent and pass down righteous instruction to your children. But in order for you to do that, you must first be receptive to the righteous instruction. How can you give something that you don't have? How can a bound mother loose a daughter? How can a bound father loose a son? You see, you have to be first willing to be unhandcuffed so that you can be free enough. And we think that we're going to run to all these things and then our life just going to morph into righteousness. That's just not going to happen. And personal accountability comes to tell you that contrary to what we make our mouth say, God already knows. So let me show you something else for anybody that might want to make an excuse. Watch this. Now, Proverbs chapter 24, verse 12 says, if you say, behold, we didn't know, do not God that looks at the heart consider it, and he that keeps your soul, do not he know it? And shall not he render to every man according to his works? Oh, you can say religion all you want. I'm going to tell you, the God that made man knows everything about man. And see, God deals with a man's motive and the intent of his heart. And where we can get things off on people by saying we didn't know it, when you know these things for yourself, you know the condition that we in. You know where it comes from. You know what the music is doing. You know what the videos are doing. Every facet of black people's lives now is being engulfed with wickedness. And we seem to not want to identify with that. And one day we're going to have to meet God and you're going to say, well, I didn't know it or I didn't realize it. Well, here it says, do not the God that made you, who ponders and knows what's in the heart, do not he know what your motive and what the intent of your heart was? Do not he know? Shall not he be the one to determine? And how can we say that we do not know anything about what righteousness is when it's built inside of our heart and we have to make a conscious choice to go completely against it? For whatever our reasons are of not doing what's right, why is it so easy for us to do the wrong thing than it is for us to do the right thing? But here the point is coming, that the personal accountability makes a man and a woman understand that if you know that God say fornication is wrong, You're not going to be able to stand before him and say, well, we didn't know it. Our parents didn't teach us. Well, your parents don't have to teach you certain things, because certain things is just built into your genetic makeup to be able to discern the difference between what is right and what is wrong. You won't be able to stand before God and say, I didn't know that when I killed my brother, it was wrong. You won't be able to say that, because it's built in your genetic makeup that you know that you are not supposed to harm your brother, not supposed to steal from your brother, not supposed to lie on your brother, not supposed to covet your brother's wife or covet your brother's house. You're not going to be able to cheat with your brother's wife or your brother's girlfriend and come back and say, well, I didn't know it. I didn't know it. He said, do not God that looks at everybody's heart. Do not. And I tell you how you know it. Because every time we sit down and we get down to ourselves, and it ain't no music playing, and it ain't no TV playing, and it ain't nobody's voice speaking, you know what? Yourself start talking to you about the things that you need to get better in. Yourself start talking to you about the areas of your life that you're falling down in. And I know that sometimes the areas that you're falling down in have become popularized in this world, and there's a level of peer pressure, or there's a level of ridicule that you're going to go through in order to pull away from those things. But what I'm trying to show you is that we don't fear no man or anything that no man can do. We ought to fear God, because when it's all said and done, we're going to have to stand before him, and we're going to have to give an account of our life, and we're not going to be able to say, I didn't know it. So, I didn't know it. I didn't know it. The pastor was this, the pastor was that. No, you knew it, because something down on the inside made you understand that what the pastor was doing, or what the pastor was telling you, it wasn't lining up with the righteous instruction that you got from grandma and them. You're not going to be able to blame it on your Hebrew Israelite leader. Well, they told us that we need to keep the law, the statutes, the judgment, and the command. You're not going to be able to say that, because when you go and look at them that was trying to keep the laws, the statutes, the judgment, and the commandments, they failed at every last one of them. You're not going to be able to say that you didn't know it. You're not going to be able to say that. So, when we're going to do right in our life, it is strategic, and it has to be on purpose. We're not going to be able to change this thing overnight. You're not going to be able to stop these brothers from killing. You know why? Because God is the one that's responsible for every life that's taken. He said, I kill and I make alive. I create good and I create evil. He said, I'm the Lord. I'm the one that does all of these things. And you know what happened? You got a revolving door of murder, and people don't even understand what's happening. That's the whole purpose for the holy books. The holy books give you a righteous instruction and ability to be able to see things for what they really are. Watch this here. Look at this. Let me show you. Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 39 says, see now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. You see, when God start allowing people to be murdered and killed in the way that they are, it's from two things. Either God is bringing judgment on the parents, because you have a scripture in the 4th chapter of the Wisdom of Solomon that says the children testify of the wickedness of their parents. So God will use the ungodly brood of children as he cut them off to bring judgment on the parents for their rebellion against him, or the rebellion to be able to walk in righteous instruction. He'll take their children away. The other thing is that when he say, I kill and I make alive and I wound and I heal and can't nobody deliver out of my hand, is that the Messiah said that the wicked would be removed from the earth. And so another reason why the spirit of murder gets put on people is because they refuse that righteous instruction. And anytime a child refuses the righteous instruction, and it don't always have to come from a parent, a child, a young man could be listening to this video right now, get up and walk away. Oh man, don't nobody want to hear that stuff. Don't want nobody want to hear that stuff. And God said, well, you know what? If you don't want to hear this righteous instruction, I don't have but one thing to do. I'm about to kill you. But if you do hear this righteous instruction, then you understand that I have the power to make you alive right now and give you a grand life. So God is the one that put the spirit of murder on people. Watch this. Who shall we send to cause Ahab to fall in battle? Let's go to Zechariah 14:2. No, that's not it, but I'm about to get it. Watch this. I'm just showing you some righteous instruction so you can know what's really behind it. What's really behind the murder is a spirit that God sends into the world to judge wicked parents that would not raise their children right, and also to remove the wicked children or the ungodly brood or offspring from off the earth. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. 2 Chronicles 18-21. And God called spirits before him and said, who shall go down and cause Ahab to fall in battle at Ramoth Gilead? Now, Ahab is a wicked king. All right? Now, this is what happened. So, the spirits came before him. And one said, I will do it. I'll go do this. Another said, I'll do it. I'll go do this. And then the third one said, I'll go do it. And then God says, how shall you go do it and cause Ahab to fall in battle? And this is what the spirit said. He said, I will go out and I will become a lion spirit in the mouth of all of his prophets. And the Lord said, thou shalt deceive him, and thou shalt also prevail. Go out. You go out. And you become a lion spirit in the mouth of his prophets. Because when a lion spirit hits the mouth of the prophet's number one job is to start prophesying deception to people that will not adhere to God's righteousness. See, Ahab already wouldn't adhere to God's righteousness, just like many of you won't adhere to God's righteousness. And when a man won't adhere to God's righteousness, God said, well, let me serve a notice on you. I'm the one that kills, and I'm the one that makes alive. I create good in this world, and I also create evil for the people that I'm going to judge. I wound people, and I also have the capacity to heal them. I am the Lord God that does all of these things. So he uses spirits. And when a man is rebellious, and when a woman is rebellious, you don't want to put your clothes on, you don't want to be a woman of character, then you better watch out. Because God said, I'm going to become a lion spirit in the mouth of all of the people that you're listening to, and they're going to lead your life into destruction. I know I'm talking some good stuff right now. Because when you go outside and you look at the world that you're living in, eight of the cars that pull up next to you, when they have their music kicked up, it's going to be talking about fuck a nigga, kill a nigga, fuck a bitch, fuck a hoe. I don't love them hoes. Don't nobody care. I kill you, kill your mama, kill your grandma, kill the whole family. When you 8 out of 10 of the vehicles that pull up next to you, and it has become all right And when you get there, you best know that you're in a dangerous place, because you're listening to all the things that causes the mind to think and operate against what's right. And God said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. So right now, God has sent the spirit into the world to become a lying spirit in the mouth of all the prophets. Let me tell you who the prophets are. He has sent the spirit in the world to become a liar in the mouth of the prophets, the rappers of the modern day prophets, CNN, the modern day prophets, Hollywood, the modern day prophets, every place that men can tune in and allow themselves to be detained so that negative message can enter into them. Those are the lying prophets, and those are the people that we listen to. Those are the people. So when the people tell a sister, hey, you don't need no dress on, you don't need no modest clothes on, let your booty cheeks hang out, let your breasts hang out, and get out there and twerk. You see, guess what? It's a lying spirit in the mouth of the ones that's telling you that that's okay to do. And guess what? God sent it. It's a lying spirit in the mouth of your rappers, because what they telling you to do is against God. But guess what? Ahab listened more to his prophets than he listened to God. You see, we don't need no prophets if we'll just listen to righteous instruction. And when we start listening to the lying spirits that's coming through the mouths of the prophets, everybody, here's another lying spirit in the mouth of a prophet. Joe Biden is a prophet that everybody went out and vote for. I'm a Democrat. My grandma was a Democrat. My daddy was a Democrat. And now I'm a Democrat. But what you did is you listened to a lying spirit in the mouth of a prophet that calls you to go out and support a man that's putting things in place that is against God, that's building back up Sodom and Gomorrah, that's legalizing same-sex marriage, that's making pedophilia all right. It's making it all right for a grown man to tamper with little girls and with little boys, and you in your ignorance, because you've been listening to a lying prophet. And you say, well, I love the Lord. I love Jesus. I'm a Hebrew Israelite. But you went out and voted for somebody that is wicked, and what he's doing is completely against God. Got men breaking the noses and fracturing the faces of women to participate in their sports. Got men claiming to be women and doing all of these things, and you don't see nothing that's wrong with that. But this is what you voted for. And there's a lying spirit in the mouth of the prophets. And many times, unless God's spirits show up, you won't see them. When God's spirits show up so that every man will be without excuse. My sheep will hear my voice, and they will not follow another. They will not listen to anything that's outside of my righteousness for their life. And though it may take you a little while to undergo the mind-altering process, baby, you got to be willing to get up on the table and have multiple spiritual IVs hooked up to you so that you can have life plump back into your body. Righteous life. Otherwise, you're going to mourn your children. That's why our label is called Drop the Casket Coalition. You're going to drop the casket in two ways. And we come out and we try to get brothers to drop the casket by hearing the righteous voice of the Most High and making the necessary changes in their life so that they can be prepared to live and not die. And if they don't listen to that righteous voice of instruction, then they still got to come in the same direction, because in the process of mourning, the phone gonna ring. Brother Milligan, I just lost my baby. Do you think that you can eulogize his service? Do you think that you can put him in the ground? Do you think that you can drop the casket? Yes, ma'am, I will drop the casket in the ground, because if we can't get them to drop the casket and get the spirit of murder off of them while they live, then we are forced to drop the casket in the ground. And either way it go, it's God's will in my eyes, no matter what nobody think. And we have a mandate to comfort those that are broken, but they have to live with the shame of being in rebellion against the Father. You can keep allowing it. Let me show you something else. Because it says, if a man say, I didn't know. He said, does not God, who knows what's in the heart of a man, does not he know whether you knew it or not? Is there anybody out there, if you've ever been out there and you had an opportunity to get away with something by saying you didn't know it, but in your heart you knew you did, put a 7 up in there. Let me see who I got with me. I put the first 7 up there. There have been many times in my life that I said I didn't know, but I knew full well what I was doing before I did it. But me saying I didn't know, nobody could judge me, nobody could stone me, because nobody knew what was in my heart. But God knows what's in your heart. You won't be able to say that you didn't know. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Let me know I ain't by myself on this morning. Let me know I ain't by myself on this morning. We know that the whole world may not change like that because you got the world full of righteous people, full of wicked people, full of good people, full of bad people. There are going to be those that get judged for righteousness and go for great rewards and have a good productive life in this earth. And then there are going to be those that get judged for their wickedness and constantly get murdered and killed and slaughtered and maimed and crippled and put in wheelchairs and loss of houses, loss of cars, and poverty stricken and sleeping up under bridges and all of that because they will not make the choice that's right. But even if you are poverty stricken, even if you are sleeping up under a bridge, even if you are maimed, you can always make a choice to do what's right and reverse that thing and watch the Most High that puts you in a wheelchair heal, because he said, I wound and I also heal. I can make a man whose ankle's been broke for a century get up and walk. See, it's what it is, baby. It's what it is. Watch this. Come on. Come on, somebody. Watch this. Let me show you what happens when we don't walk by righteous instruction. Yep. Let me show you what happens when we don't walk by righteous instruction. Leviticus chapter 19 verse 29 tells us, do not prostitute thy daughters to cause her to be a whore. Otherwise the whole land will fall into whoredom and the land will become full of wickedness. Talking about righteous choices. Now, this passage right here says, do not prostitute your daughters to become a whore, or else the land will be full of whoredom and wickedness. You know, basically what he's saying, do not raise your girls up to think that it's all right for them to fornicate with men that are not their husbands. Do not raise your daughters up to be prostitutes. And we used to define a prostitute by the way she dressed. That's how you define a prostitute from an upstanding woman. Her attire and the way that she dressed separated the two. You knew one was an upstanding woman because of her attire, and then you knew one was a prostitute because of her attire. So he said, do not prostitute your daughters. Unless the land will be, do not teach your daughters to believe that it's all right for them to walk around. What is it now that every woman has to be walking around in yoga pants, displaying what the terminology they call now a camel toe? What happened to where every woman has to be walking around in yoga pants where these things are hugging their hips? See, there was a time that only a whore would wear those type of clothes. Don't get mad at me. I didn't say it. I'm just showing you that when we don't adhere to righteous instruction, what we're listening to is lying prophets that bring about destruction. What is it that a woman don't believe in dressing modestly? What is it that every time a woman leaves the house, everything got to be hugging her body, her chest got to be pumped up, everything got to be like that to entice a man to fornicate? He said, and when you prostitute your daughters, that's what you're going to have. You're going to have men being enticed to fornicate. And when you start fornicating one with another, you become whores and whoremongers in the eyes of God, because you have no respect for the sanctity of marriage. God didn't create the human body of a man or the anatomy of a woman just to be running around here having sex. He created the anatomy of a man and a woman so that the two can come back together and be one and produce children, produce images and likenesses of the Most High in this earth. Prostitute not your daughters, lest the land be full of whoredom. Look at the videos that you're watching now. Why is it that all of the sisters got to be prostituted in the videos, whether they men's videos or whether they women's videos? Why is it that we're going against the grain of righteous instruction, and then when God's judgment falls like a hammer, we are surprised that it's happening? But there is no surprise. We know exactly why it's happening, because every sister knows exactly what she is doing when she's in the mirror getting dressed, when she's putting her makeup on, when she's putting her eyelashes on, when she's putting her clothes on. In her mind, she has already strategically thought on how she's going to entice a man and bring him into fornication. And guess what comes out of fornication? An ungodly brood of offspring who God will eventually wipe off the face of the earth to bring judgment on the parents for what they refuse to do. So on today, this is not a judgmental message. We are showing you the difference. Why is it that wickedness and unrighteous instruction is not tied to religion? Why is it that they only try to tie the righteous things to religion? Why is it that they only try to tie being good to being religious? Why is it that they only try to tie being married to being religious? Why is it that they never they won't tie murder and spirit to being wicked? They won't tie debauchery, which is the lowest places that you can sink in sexuality. Why is it that they won't tie debauchery to wickedness? Why is it they won't tie fornication to being wicked? Why is it that we take things that are wicked and then try to normalize them as though they are right? Why you won't tie going to bed with 4 or 5 different men, 4 or 5 different women? Why you won't tie that to being an act of wickedness in the world that you are living in? Why is it that you won't tie walking around with your cootie cutters and your breasts hanging out? Why is it that you can't tie that to being a wicked, lascivious woman? Why is it that you can't tie it to what it really is? How you gonna make a form of wickedness turn out to be right in this world and think that God ain't gonna judge you for it, and think that he don't know what's in your heart when he do know what's in your heart? My thing is, I adjure every last one of you, because you're not gonna live forever, and it just be a matter of time before God will start allowing things to fall apart in your life. Why not just go on and repent now and say, I know I got to go all the way against the grain. I got to take these eyelashes off. They ain't doing me no good. I got to put these eagle claw nails down. I got to get me some good clothes to walk around. I need to get me some nice dresses and some nice skirts. Let me take all this makeup off my face and quit deceiving men, so I can find the man that really loves me for who I am. Whether I got makeup, whether I got the Brazilian weave, whether I got the tight coochie cutters on, I need to find a man. Have it ever occurred to you, sister, that the reason why you can't find a man is because he can't find you? Because you're so covered up with all this superficial stuff. That's not really you that the man is looking at. The man that's really looking for you can't find you because you're covered up with all of this nonsense. Why is it so hard for us to do the right thing? Why is it so hard, brother? Why is it so hard, brother? How can you walk around in shame, walk around with your pants hanging, walk around with your hair looking any kind? How can you just walk around looking like the worst ragged doll on the face of the earth when God made you to be royalty, made you to be regal? How can you just walk around content with looking like something that's the lowest form on the planet? How can you walk around bringing shame on the one that made you? How can you walk around thinking that it's all right to kill your brother, thinking that it's all right to be a deadbeat daddy, not take care of you? How can you walk around thinking it's all right for you to be dropping your willy and your sperm and using women as a trash receptacle for your sperm to father children that you ain't gonna take care of? How can you think that that's all right? That's not all right, brother, but you ain't got the end right there. You can make a choice to do what's right. How can you do it? How can you do it? Everybody looking for the sky to crack and for something miraculous to come out of the world. Well, baby, let me tell you something. You the only miraculous thing that God have in the earth. You the only miraculous thing. You'd be surprised what your one life can do when you start making righteous decisions. You have the capacity to change the mindset of the woman that you live with, change the mindset of your children, who will go out in the world and change the mind of other children, who will go out in the world and change the mind of other children. We need to start allowing righteous instruction to spread. And the only thing we do is we keep gravitating toward every form of wickedness that comes into our peripheral vision. Next thing you know, I want it, I want it, I want it. And then when you see righteousness show up, it's you uncomfortable with that. You know you in trouble when you're more comfortable with dead folks than you are with the living. You become like the man that laid up in the tombs with dead folks, laying around with corpses, talking on the phone to corpses, walking around kicking it and having fun with dead men, people that don't even have the ability or the mind to think for themselves. Are you comfortable with that? You know you're in trouble when you're more comfortable with the dead than the living. And you better be careful, because the scripture said, and he was in the tombs day and night, crying and cutting himself with stones. You might pretend before your brothers and sisters that everything is all right. But we know when you get by yourself and you know you've been surrounded by all them dead things, when you get by yourself that you're crying every day because the spirit of conviction is on you. You're crying every day. You're cutting yourself with stones. You're having suicidal thoughts. You don't know which direction to go. He said, you know what? Be careful. No man could bind them. No, not with chains. No, not with fetters. Often the chains would be broken and plucked asunder, and the fetters would be broken off. Well, the chains and the fetters is God's instruction that come to bind us and build walls around us so that we don't stray to the left or stray to the right. But no man could bind. Be careful when you're a brother or a sister and you're rejecting righteous instruction. Every time somebody comes to tell you what's right, you don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that preaching. Man, go on with all that Bible stuff. Be careful when you're a man that can't listen to righteousness. Be careful when you're a woman that can't listen to righteous instruction. Righteous instruction is coming to you because it's an expression of God's love, that he would come all the way from a place that you ain't never seen before to try and reach you. Be careful. Be very careful when nobody can tell you anything about what you're doing. Be very careful. No man could bind them, not with chains, not with fetters. The chains and the fetters are the righteous instruction. Be very careful when God sends righteous instruction and you can reject it. Be careful, because you know what comes next. The demons. The demons come. When outside, apart from that righteous instruction, now you expose yourself to all of the lying spirits and all the demons that God has sent to destroy you. Look what the demons said. What are we to do with you, Jesus, thou Son of God, deliver? Well, what are we to do with you? You come to torment us before our time? What is your name? Our name is Legion, for we are many. Be careful. When you start rejecting the righteous instruction, God sends his demons to destroy your life. We're many. One legion of demons. 6,000 makes up a legion. God sends 6,000 demons to torment this individual who no man could bind with his righteous instruction. 6,000 demons having their way with this man. He's depressed. He's suicidal. He's in the graveyard. He's impoverished. He's homeless. He don't have nothing. He have lost his family, separated from his friends, care nothing about his children, and he's in the tomb with dead people. He's surrounded by rot gut people, surrounded by murderers, surrounded by whores, surrounded by criminals and thugs, surrounded by all the things that are bringing his mind to a place of destruction. Leave us alone. Leave us alone. If you leave us alone, we are going to kill him, because that's what the demons are for. They are killing spirits. Remember, I am he, even the Lord. I'm the one that kills, and I'm the one that makes alive. I'm the one that heals a man, and I'm the one that wounds him. I am the one that create the good, and I create the evil. I create the good for them that choose the ways of righteous instruction, and I create evil and send my demons on those that will not bend the knee to righteousness. Leave us alone so that we can kill him. And sometimes you can see yourself surrounded by all of these things, and you can muster up the strength and say, this is my hour. I heard what the brother said, but it wasn't really the brother. I seen something in the scripture that I ain't never seen before. He said, I heard what it said, so I'm going to keep on reaching beyond the break. You can reach beyond the break. And when they knew, when you choose to make the choice of righteous instruction, when you make that choice, that's where the Most High begins. His healing process. And the demons know that they're finished. So what they start doing, negotiating. Well, you're going to take us out of the man. We ain't gonna get the chance to kill him like we thought we was. We was real close to killing him. We had him on the ropes. But we know that now you about to take us out. But we got to have something. We got to have something. You can't just take us out. We 6,000. We're a legion. We're 6,000 strong. You can't just take us out and give us nothing, Jesus. What you gonna do with us? We got to come up with a plan. You can't just take us out. We've been working on this dude too. We've been working this neighborhood too long. You can't just take us out of this neighborhood. We've been killing these kids too long. We've been treating these women like this too long. We've been messing up the mindset of these men too long. You can't just pull us up out of this neighborhood, up out of this community. You can't just take us up out of this people. We know that they're your people, but we are having our way with them right now. You got to give us something. You got to give us something, baby. If we can't have the neighborhood, can we have his son? Can we have his nephew? Can we have his wife? Can we have his daughter? Can we have his cousin? We got to have his friend. We need his co-worker. You got to give us something. You can't just take us out and not give us something. He said, nah, I tell you what, you ain't getting nothing. You coming up out of these brothers. You coming up out of these sisters. You coming up out of these children. I tell you where you're going to go. We're going to send you over there into one of the most wicked animals on the planet. It ain't nothing, no place where you can go. Go back. You get in where you fit in. You take your 6,000 imps and y'all run over there into that herd of swine that I forbid my people to eat or to even touch. You run over there into that herd and when they ran into that herd of swine, they ran down an embankment and they killed 2,000 pigs. They were killing spirits. You see? When you've been listening to lying spirits and the false prophets that come through the rap music, that come through the videos, that come through all those things to make you think that it's all right to live a life of unrighteousness while God wake you up every day and breathe life into your body. When you get to that point, you understand you got a problem. They were killing spirits. And unless we start changing one individual at a time, don't worry about mom and them. Don't worry about the Christian. Don't worry about the Israelite, what they doing. Don't worry about the Islamic man. Don't worry about what your cousin doing, what your niece doing. Don't even worry about what your daughter doing. You get focused on what you doing. You pull a mirror out, and every day you look in that mirror and you ask yourself, who am I not? That I might come to understand who it is that God desired for me to be. I'm not no hoe. I might dress like a hoe, but I'm not a hoe in my spirit. So I got to become what my spirit say I am. I'm not no thug. So I might be dressed like, but I got to pull my pants up, put my shirt on, put my tie on. I need to get rid of them wild dreads and get me a nice haircut and start looking like the upstanding man that I really am. I'm not no thug. I'm not no criminal. I might just climb through somebody's window, but ain't nothing written in stone that I got to be that way. I'm going to pull myself together. I'm going to get me a job. I'm not no deadbeat daddy. I know child support been on me, even threatened to put me in jail, but I ain't no deadbeat. You got to ask yourself, who am I not? I ain't no thug. I ain't no criminal. I'm not no has-been. I'm not no dried up piece of wood. I'm a man fearfully and marvelously made, created in God's image. I'm a man. Stand up on the sixth day. God made Adam, breathe life into his body. Listen, here's the $6 million man. Your whole life might be that came apart. Like Steve Austin. We breaking up. We breaking up. We breaking up. We going down and we going down. But God said we can rebuild him. Bring him in here. Put him on this table. Hook these spiritual IVs up. We will rebuild him. We'll make him better. We'll make him faster. We'll make him stronger. That was the $6 million man. And that's what you can be too. And the $6 million man was the reason and responsible for the $6 million woman. Because not long after they rebuilt that man, you talking about a fleshly man being transferred into a spiritual man that was able now to see things that he never could, do things that he never could. Now he is responsible for the $6 million woman, a same woman, same rot gut woman, walking around like a hoe, no discretion, loud mouth, just foul and vile. Rebuilt her too. You got to figure out what you want in this life. Because when it's time for you to die, you won't be able to make no excuses. Not before God. We can make excuses before each other. Peace and blessings.